Alrighty, here we go. I got my good buddy here, Kata Jaramillo. What's up, Kate?
Hey, what's going on? Super excited to be hanging out with you today.
Awesome, me too. All right, so Kate is awesome. She's a ketogenic lifestyle coach and expert. She's a mom of 4 kids, and so as we're gearing up to run our Dr. Saunders 7-week program, I'm getting a lot of questions from my moms, particularly moms that are relatively newly postpartum within that first year of having their baby, moms that are thinking about getting pregnant or are pregnant, or just moms that have, a little bit of their kids are a little bit older, but just wondering how they can fit ketosis and fasting in their life, if it's something they need to wait on, or if it's something that they can do during this time. And so I thought, the best person to bring on here, and I just adore you, Kate, is you, because you're literally living it. We both were living this lifestyle when we had our most recent baby. And so we can really talk about our experience and the importance of modifying this lifestyle, but how crucial it can be to helping all women feel better after the baby or whatever stage of life they're really in.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. I actually, after my second daughter was born, and I was like, okay, we thought that we weren't going to be having any more kids. So I have 4, and my stepdaughter's 12, Presley's 8, Irie just turned 5. So when Irie was born, we thought, we weren't going to have any more kids, but I had postpartum depression with her for like, I remember the cloud lifting after about 2 weeks because I was getting back into a routine with like exercise and things. But oh my gosh, like still for a while, I would wait for everyone to like go to sleep so that I could sit by myself in a dark space and just cry because I didn't want to do it in front of other people. And shortly after she was born is actually when I found the ketogenic lifestyle. And I thought to myself, like, even though we're done having kids, we weren't, but I was like, I wish that I would have known about keto when this was going on because of the shift in mental clarity and boosting my mood. I just I wish that I knew about it then because I don't think I would have experienced maybe any postpartum, or at least not as bad as I felt, because we did, from like being in ketosis, like, it is just a different way that your body and brain feel. There's a reason it's called, the happy diet. And there's a reason why the standard American diet is really like logically abbreviated as the SAD diet. It makes us feel crappy and low and crashing constantly. And it's just the opposite of what we're feeling now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned all your kids except for baby Madden. So when did he come into play?
Yeah. So it's so interesting because I always felt like I was meant to have like a boy. And it's, it's weird because I have, my 3 girls and I'm so blessed and so grateful for them. And even like thinking, like having that feeling like, but even though I know we're done, I don't really know that I feel like we're done. And sometimes it made me feel a little bit ungrateful, honestly. But I always kind of like carried this little silent prayer over my heart of like, God, if it's right for me and if it's your will, like I would love to welcome a baby boy in our lives. So I had actually just let that thought and that feeling go, because, we have our 3 girls and they're healthy and happy, thank God. But we were doing things to prevent pregnancy. But then, just to, not this past summer, but the summer before, I like all of a sudden, and I've been very regular with my period since starting a ketogenic diet, like very regular, every 28 days, like clockwork. And I didn't get it. And I was like, oh, well, we just traveled. I'm under a lot of stress right now. My dad wasn't feeling great. And so I was like, I kind of wrote it off. I got home though, and I was like, all right, like if something doesn't happen in the next like 2 or 3 days, I'm totally going to take a pregnancy test. And I did. And I am telling you, that stick showed up pregnant in like 5 seconds. I was like, boom, you're pregnant. I was like, huh, okay. Because, I struggled to get pregnant with with Presley and Irie. And now here we were doing things to kind of prevent pregnancy, and boom, I got pregnant. And I'm telling you, the second I looked at that stick and it said pregnant, I was like, that's my boy. I knew from that moment in my bones that this child was a boy. And so when we had a gender reveal party with some of my ketogenic lifestyle coaches in Florida, I knew the second I bit into that keto cupcake that the filling in the middle was going to be blue. I knew it, and it was.
He's a little keto baby.
He is a keto baby. Yep. And he eats keto. He is a keto baby.
Such a healthy little guy. All right, so let's go back. So I wanted to ask you that story about Madden because I know from hearing it that you have felt that living the ketogenic lifestyle is a big part of why your pregnancy came so easily. So I think what's really important to mention as far as like getting pregnant in regards to ketosis and postpartum, and we'll kind of talk about what ketosis is in a minute for those that don't know, but it's really you know, our bodies are designed to go in and out of ketosis naturally. And as you mentioned, the SAD diet, the standard American diet, if we eat that way that typical Americans do, where we eat every couple of hours and we eat these, you know, 9 to 11 servings of grains, we never tap into this other fuel tank we have. Mm-hmm. Our bodies become used to running off of glucose or sugar or food. And so we need that food for energy. And when we don't have it, or when our body burns through it in a couple hours, we have a blood sugar crash and we're hungry again. So that's like the standard way of eating. And when we eat that way, we never tap into this other tank of ketones, which is this super clean, amazing fuel that we're literally designed to drop into when we don't have access to food. And so that's why a lot of times when you hear about ketosis, you hear about fasting, because it's when we dip into a fasted state or go a chunk of time without food, our body starts using ketones. And so that's what Kate and I are talking about. And, you know, we're genetically designed to eat this way, because if we didn't have food at our ready, you know, through the, you know, when we didn't have grocery stores and this easy access to food and drive-thrus, we needed to be able to function, right? Or else we wouldn't have survived as a species. And so when we train our body to go into ketosis and to know the system and how to access it, not only do we not feel hungry or like the sugar crash in between meals, but you get this incredible spike, right, Kate, of like energy and clarity and happiness. And so, you know, why wouldn't our body work better? Why wouldn't we, you know, have an easier time getting pregnant? And why wouldn't we feel better postpartum by tapping into this way of living that we're literally designed to be in?
That's exactly right. And if you looked at me and the way that I was living and moving prior to getting pregnant with Madden, you would think that like or prior to getting pregnant with both my girls, you would think that I was like healthy, because I was eating like 6 small meals a day, and I was drinking protein shakes, and I was working out a lot, and I was eating low fat, right? Like low fat, not low sugar. And I want to clarify that, because like I've been eating sugar for a long time. I'm originally from Hershey, PA. Like I was still eating sugar, even though I was still eating, like buying and eating low fat foods. And I struggled to get pregnant with my first daughter. We had a loss in between, you know, Presley and Irie, a pregnancy loss. I struggled to get pregnant with Irie. And all these times I'm like, but I'm so healthy. I'm so healthy. And when I look back to when I did get pregnant with Madden, that time of my life, like I was eating well, you know, eating a really well formulated ketogenic diet with all great whole foods. And I was fasting. Like my eating window was like pretty short, and I did have cycles of fasting and feeding days. And that was really, that fasting is truly amazing what it does for our bodies. And like you said, we're built to run that way. We're built, like that's how our ancestors lived and ate. Like that is how we are primally designed to eat and live. And I'm telling you, like all of those things combined, they led up to my hormones being totally balanced and allowing that miracle of life to happen. Because it really is a miracle that like any of us ever conceive. You know, it has to be so perfectly timed. But my hormones were really perfectly regulated, I think for the first time ever.
And that's so common. Two of the main benefits of fasting, as you know, Kate, are decreasing inflammation, which is huge because so many of the disease processes that happen in our body are a result of inflammation. So much of the aches and pains that we feel, that many women feel postpartum, like the heel pain and the leg pain and the bone pain, that's all inflammatory. And then the other major benefit of fasting is hormone regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Literally enhance the way that your hormones function in your body when you can fast. And so as we're talking about fasting, I think what's really important to touch on is that, fasting can be overwhelming for a lot of people. It's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I have to go this chunk of time without food. Well, the most important thing with gearing up for fasting is doing it correctly. And then it's not difficult, right? It becomes very, very natural. And I mean, hands down, it's one of the easiest things I do as a busy mom because I don't have to think about food and I feel amazing in between meals, right? So it makes it such an easier way of life. And, specifically since we're talking about postpartum moms and breastfeeding, we do need to kind of quantify fasting, right? So fasting can simply mean spacing out our time between meals. Mm-hmm. So the typical American, we eat anywhere from 11 to 17 times a day. If it's a handful of nuts or a granola bar or these low-fat snacks that when you take out the fat, you have to put in sugar to make it taste good. Mm-hmm. So it's this constant feeding cycle, or any drink other than water is technically, breaking a fasted state. Mm-hmm. So we eat constantly throughout the day. And so, when you're first starting to fast, it typically just means spacing out and eating high quality, big meals and ditching your snacks. That's like one of the easiest ways to start to get your body used to fasting. And then, with a woman, especially shortly after a birth, when she's really needing a ton of the calories for breastfeeding, like Kate and I were talking about before she hopped on, you were saying, it's not about eating less food. It's just really less often because you've got to get those calories in.
Absolutely. And that really is, in my experience, when I see any woman that has had a dip in breast milk supply, and this is outside of eating keto, it's because she's not eating enough. I think new moms especially, they're so free. No, that's not even true, because having like multiple children all at once is just as crazy. But, like you're a little bit stressed out from like the baby and making sure it's fed and changed and all the other things. And you kind of end up not eating, or that stress is making your milk supply production just like plummet, So I think that when you are able to you're naturally fasting, but then when you're able to sit down and eat, it is a really like well-formulated meal that you can get all of your great, delicious calories in then. And the great thing about keto is that we don't really have an issue with getting a lot of calories in, right? Like if we're eating a lot of nutrient dense, foods and animal proteins and healthy fats, it's pretty easy to get to that point. And again, like from what we were saying in the very beginning, it's helping us reduce inflammation. It's helping us regulate our stress levels. So all of those things combined too are helping us produce more milk and like better quality milk. I was saying to you, like, I can see a big difference in like, and even though it's been a few years, I can see a difference in the way that my breast milk looks now. It's still got like that kind of deep, like golden tone. And we call it golden milk. It really is. And my son, as boys are so different from girls, like they definitely eat more. But I noticed that like with the quality of my milk, like he can go on say like 2 ounces of pumped milk that can hold him over for hours and hours, where I think before, like my girls could go through 2 ounces of milk and be hungry again within like an hour or 2 hours because it just wasn't as dense.
Mm-hmm. You think that's from all the high fats you're eating?
I do. And I'm really definitely like picky about the foods and the fats that I do consume. I really just want to make sure that I'm fueling myself with the best things. Like I just personally don't choose to eat a lot of like processed foods, even though they might be keto friendly and low carb and high fat. Like I'm sensitive to dairy, so we don't do that at all. But, you know, I'm making sure that I eat a lot of like really good, like pastured eggs, good quality meats. We do use grass-fed butter and coconut oil, MCT oils, you know, things like that. And I do eat a lot of green vegetables. And those have always been good to my body. I think that that's being picky and making sure that I'm choosing the right foods is good too. And like, I am not making huge, like great meals these days. You know, like I'm not spending a ton of time in the kitchen making something with a laundry list of ingredients that my kids will look at and be like, what's that? I'm not eating that.
Right.
You know,
yeah, that's what's key. I was going to ask you, what are your favorite, you know, go-to foods as a mom who's busy? Because that's the reality, right? We want those whole foods, you know, nutrient-rich things, and we're busy, and we want to make ideally one meal, not 5 meals.
Yeah, exactly. So I love my Instant Pot, and I make a lot of things in that. So we'll put like, you know, a whole chicken in there and season it up, and we'll make it in there. And then we just eat off of that, you know, for a couple of days. I feel like I make a lot of meatballs, or I'm making a lot of like taco-ish and taco salads. Yeah. And I mean, we cook maybe like 3 different types of protein per week. And that's it. And then we just put it in different things, like different salads, or mix it, you know, like use different seasonings. So I'll go kind of light on the seasonings when I'm making something big, like a big piece of protein in the Instant Pot, because then we can just season it in different ways so no one's getting, you know, tired of it. And my kids, like, again, I mean, it's just so simple. For like lunchtime, they'll typically gravitate towards maybe like a high quality lunch meat. Like we go for like Applegate Farms, and berries and almonds they eat a lot of. But I mean, it's really simple. It's really, really simple. I think that eating the way that we do now is so much easier to eat, like when we're outside of the house, but also from like a meal prep perspective. Like those 6 small meals a day, my grocery bill was enormous. And I'm spending like an entire day on like Sunday meal prepping. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to spend that time with my family and my kids. I don't want to be in the kitchen all day. Right. So I've heard this is just like totally transformed things.
And also just heading out. It's like not having to pack a million different packaged snacks. You know, I think there's a time and a place for sure. And there's definitely times when I'll bring snacks if I need to make sure that they're just good and set and I'm trying to do something. But yeah, I think it simplifies life too. And I would imagine you've done this with Madden. For our kids, we raise them all through like Weston Price First Foods. I get a lot of questions on First Foods. So we followed Weston Price, and then with Kaya, we knew more about ketogenic living. Yeah. It's just pretty much a name for what we were doing anyway, but it made things really easy because they ate what we ate.
Yes.
And then it's just carried over as much as possible now that they're older. So we're not cooking a lot of meals. So our kids' First Foods were egg yolks, which is actually really, really good. It's the white that can cause the allergy. So egg yolks, we did a soft boil, and avocado was a big one because we really want to get those good fats for their brain. Super easy. We would travel with avocados. You can essentially like live off avocado and egg yolks. So we always had those as our base. And then if I would make like a good, you know, chicken soup with, sometimes I'd throw in a bone and have it be somewhat of a bone broth and veggies, and I would just cook it till it's mushy, and they ate that. And like, how easy, because we could eat the exact same thing.
That's exactly what we do too. Exactly what we do. And we've always done like, you know, making our own baby foods and things like that too. But yeah, we do the exact same thing. And my son is thriving.
He's such a cutie. How old is he now?
He's about to turn 9 months, which is crazy to me.
Gosh, he's delicious.
Yeah. But like, you know how I was saying before, I wasn't really sure if we were done. Now it's like, it's weird because people ask you like, how do you know you're done? You just know I'm done.
I think when you see the pregnant mom and you're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would be, you know, if there was a mom, let's say a newly postpartum mom that was thinking about doing some sort of, you know, like our 7-week, like dipping into our 7-week online program, but maybe was fearful of having something that's too restrictive or too regimented in such a busy time in her life. What would you say to someone like that? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would just let them know that it can just keep it really simple. They don't need to go out and buy a bunch of like special ingredients or pin a million meals that they're never going to make on Pinterest, or
Yeah.
do anything that is truly out of the norm, except for pull back on processed foods, shop the perimeter of your grocery store. It's really simple to chop up a salad and throw some good quality protein on top and drizzle it with some olive oil. And in a pinch, something that we do is like we'll grab like a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
And like we serve that with like some spinach or something and drizzle it with olive oil. And everybody loves that. Everybody loves it. It really just doesn't have to be super complicated. And like not everyone in my home wants to like not eat carbohydrates all the time. So like today they're having like eggs and they had like some rice because my husband is from South America and that's a staple in their diet. I don't mind giving them rice sometimes. They don't eat it all the time, but it's also really simple to make in our rice maker. And eggs are really simple to make as well. So I think that the misconception is that this has to be restrictive and difficult. I would say that you don't need to really go into tracking all your macros right away either, unless you want to, and that's something that makes you feel good about knowing exactly what you're putting in your mouth and the quantity. But it really is just about simplifying. Like lead with a protein that your whole family enjoys, make a big vat of that so that you can eat it all week. Mm-hmm. Stick with some good quality low carb vegetables and have some healthy fats at your disposal. And that is it. You don't have to go crazy making all of these meals thinking that like you have to change, your world flips upside down because you're starting to eat whole food.
Right. Yep. Love it. I think I agree. Keeping it simple is so important. Giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room, I think, is really important. I found, especially after Kaya, I buy bagged vegetables, pre-chopped organic vegetables if I can find them, which is pretty easy nowadays. With a toddler on the floor or a baby, if I have one hand and limited time, I'm not going to spend it chopping vegetables. I'm going to spend it eating. And so, we strive for the highest quality possible. And other than that, my focus is fat, good quality meats, veggies. And then depending on where I was postpartum, my carbs may have been higher. I'm sure yours were too.
Yeah.
The whole foods, like the sweet potatoes and the rice. And so for some women, when they're doing ketosis, and maybe, if we were to black and white ketosis in general, it's going below about 50 net carbs. Mm-hmm. When you're postpartum or you're breastfeeding, your carbs are probably going to be 100, 150. Like it's all about modifying because again, we've got to make that nutrient rich milk for the baby if we're breastfeeding or just help our body recover.
Yeah.
I will say though, I was not living that lifestyle after I had Levi and after I had Wyatt, and my pregnancies were harder. I definitely had morning sickness and my body hurt for about 6 to 7 months after each one of the boys. And Kaya I was in ketosis before we got pregnant. She was the easiest pregnancy ever. We got pregnant right away. And postpartum, I felt amazing. I think a big part of it was not having that inflammation in my body and not having that pain. And I feel I was giving my body what it needed in order to build back after, I think even in the best of pregnancies and births, like your body takes a hit. And yeah. I don't think that many women anticipate that, especially like women that are healthy and active, and it takes a good year for your body to recover. And so giving it all that nutrient dense food is just going to help us heal so much more quickly.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I feel like I bounced back physically like fairly quickly, with all of my children, but like this was by far, the easiest pregnancy. I was the happiest, I feel like. And you know what, even like, so after my first 2 daughters, like I was really anxious to get back into a workout routine. I think again, because my body was needing those endorphins because I was a little bit low. But this time around, I just gave myself a ton of grace and I just kind of like, just started back whenever I felt like it. Like I really feel like I've never been more in tune to my body than I have been in the past few years of living this lifestyle. I think that that's one of the biggest benefits that I've received is just really understanding my body and understanding like when I'm hungry, when I'm thirsty, you know, when I'm just hungry because I'm tired, you know, and my body's like, all right, if you're going to keep me awake, then you need to feed me, rather than just kind of like walking through life like a zombie and being like grabbing all the snacks.
Yeah, totally. It's good to have that conscious mindset around food, like you had said earlier. So
yeah.
Cool. All right, Kate. Well, I think that's a good amount of information for our moms. I will make sure that we tag your website so anyone can find your keto coaching stuff as well.
Woo-hoo.
And as always, I love spending time with you.
Love spending time with you too. So great.
All right. Thank you.
All right, bye.